they could be holding Poatan till they get this John Jones situation ironed out.
Especially if Pereira wins that fight, because then you'll know you'll get John Jones back for it.
I actually, I was prepared to jump on and be like, nah, I'm good. But you kind of swayed me on that at the end, Scott. Sign me up. I'm in.
Welcome back to Against the Cage, the post-MMA show where we covered the biggest news in MMA, talk to some of the biggest fighters, preview and recap the biggest fights. My name is Jake Aryeh. I'm here joined by Scott Fontana and Erich Richter. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
I'm doing well.
Okay.
I missed out on you guys last week, but
you missed out on Mike Perry, man.
Oh,
I
yeah.
did. Well, I caught up with Mike Perry. I saw that. Nice to he offered me a birthday wish.
Yes,
and,
you did.
And also who the heck is this guy? You kind of set him up to fail there, Eric. I have to say, you kind of put him in a bad spot, but it's all good. It's all good. Thank you everybody for the birthday wishes. I had a nice time.
Yeah, I was gonna ask how was your birthday, Scott?
It was fine. On the day of, I just had some friends over, friends and family, and then the next day I went to Six Flags with my cousin. We had a good time there too.
There we go. Love to hear that. Six Flags, one of my favorite places on planet Earth. Another place on planet Earth is Azerbaijan, where the UFC will be going this weekend, headlined.
It is on Earth.
Headlined by Jamal Hill and Khalil Rountree. Look at that transition right there.
Amazing.
Two light heavyweights. That division is kind of in an interesting limbo right now with the Alex Pereira fight and Magomed Ankalaev about seemingly the next option for the top of that division. So I thought it'd be an interesting thing for us to talk about the state of the light heavyweight division before we dive deep into this light heavyweight bout this weekend. How does that sound, you guys?
I'm in.
Alrighty, let's do it. So my first question for you guys, if you could break out your crystal balls, if you will. We've got, this fight coming up this weekend, and while these guys could be viable options for this question, who do you think could be the future of the light heavyweight division? Scott, I'm going to start with you on this one.
So it's interesting because light heavyweight and heavyweight are generally populated by bigger guys, right? Older guys, obviously they're bigger, but older guys tend to succeed. You're in their 30s, into their 40s even, and stuff like that. So I actually want to ask you before I get into this, I want to ask both of you, and you can just speak up, it doesn't matter. Can either of you name any of the three youngest members of the light heavyweight top 20 based on Fight Matrix? They're all UFC guys. So I'm, just spit a name out. I'm just curious if anyone will get it.
Yeah, I got one. That one is my pick.
Okay. All right. Well, you can hold yours if you want to, but what about you, Jake?
So the question is any of the three youngest fighters in the top 20?
The three youngest fighters in the light heavyweight top 20.
I'm going to say, so I have the rankings in front of me. Is that cheating?
No.
Okay. Nikita Krylov? Is he one of them?
He is not one of them.
Dang.
I'll tell you the three because, again, Eric wants to hold off. So our youngest member is Zhang Mingyang, who is 26, only 20-something in the group. Then we got Bogdan Guskov, 32, and Yuri Prohaska at 32 also.
Wow.
This is a very old group. I mean, we're talking about 32 being pretty young for the collective at the top there. So, with that in mind, I would say I could see Yuri actually finding his way all the way back to the top again, and a few years down the road. Magomed Ankalaev, he's only 33. He's the champion now. Finally, I could see sustained success there as well. I want to give two wild cards though before I kick it over to Eric, and they come from different weight classes. Jailton Almeida at heavyweight,
wow,
he's 33, and Khamzat Chimaev, middleweight at 31 years old. I could see either of them merging down into that weight class and bolstering it because I think there's opportunities for them. What do you got, Eric? That's what I want to know. I want to know who you were holding out on.
Tough to follow.
I was real excited to bring Mingyang Zhang into the conversation here. 26 years old, 12 fight win streak, all finishes. He just finished Anthony Smith. I think he's getting better quickly. Obviously not in MMA. He had a bunch of losses earlier in his career. I believe he has like 8 or 9 losses, but he's gotten better quick. So I like buying in on a fighter who honestly, like nobody's really watched a whole lot of his fights. I think that he's getting better quick. He's well-rounded. He has good takedown defense. He can be on the offensive on the wrestling as well, and obviously the striking is really impressive. So that was my pick. I was excited to drop that one. My other one, and we just saw him in Newark, and it was kind of a listless performance, but Joe Pyfer, 6'2", 185, crowded division. I would say that his performance this past weekend wasn't what we had hoped for from him. I know it's not what he hoped for. So for me, I think Joe Pyfer is an interesting call out. I think, and we talked about this, but at light heavyweight and at heavyweight, you need less technical ability, and there's a lot of power that comes into play. But I don't think he'd be outsized at 205, which is a big weight increase. But he's such a big 185er. I think that he could grow into himself at 205. His striking power will still be there, and his grappling advantages would be dramatic at that weight class. So I think that at 205, Joe Pyfer should look at maybe moving up in weight, especially, I mean, depending on what his next booking is. I think we could definitely see Joe Pyfer within the next year and a half be a 205 contender.
Your guys' answers are far more creative than mine. I was just like, Yuri. Like that was my answer. Scott, were you gonna say something off of what Eric said?
No, no, no. I didn't have anything to add, but honestly, Yuri makes a lot of sense. He is still young. We've seen him get to the top. We've also seen him stop the slide. He looked pretty darn good against Jamal Hill his last time out. So, the fact that he's able to get a win over a fellow former champion there certainly lends some credibility that somebody who, he's got a range of skills. He's certainly defense deficient a lot of the time, but yeah, I could see that, Jake, for sure.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned like him kind of stopping the slide. Historically, and we talk about this all the time, this sport is absolutely brutal. Like people who lose their titles and then have another knockout loss after that one, it's pretty rare for them to make a comeback. But I don't know, we've been seeing some heartwarming, I guess you could say, comebacks. Volk coming back to get the title. We've got Charlie Olives possibly being able to get that title back again. Who knows? 2 years from now, Yuri Prohaska holding that title, that would be something. That would be quite a shift as what we've seen historically. So that would kind of warm my heart. How could you not love that samurai? So
hey, not for nothing. We've seen a lot of men climb back up to the top, have multiple reigns at 205 pounds. So if there's a weight class to have it be done, it is certainly this one.
that's true. 205 historically is just there's so much juice there. It's a crazy division. So I love that we're
Juice is
talking
an interesting
about
word
this.
choice there too. I think that there's been a history of juice there as well.
Yes, there definitely has. I'm sure you would be able to list off a few. I mean, who knows? USADA's not around anymore, so we'll see what's going on there. I guess going off of that, I mentioned the Alex Pereira rematch, which I do have some thoughts on, so I want to touch to that before we wrap up this question. But should that rematch not happen? Because like I said, it seems like it's kind of in limbo. We've been waiting on it for a while. We would expect it to be announced by now. But should he not get that rematch, which I think we all agree he should, who would you like to see? And Scott, I'll start with you again. Who do you want to see?
Give me Carlos Ulberg. And the reason I say that, even though it was not like the most impressive of performances when he got the win over Jan Blachowicz, it's still a big feather in his cap. And I think putting him in there, it keeps things fresh a little bit with someone who has qualified victories and has been putting in the work and that kind of thing. I don't see any issue with making that be the next one. But I'd totally be fine, honestly, if Yuri Prohaska got the next shot even this quickly, because frankly, we're talking about a Jamal Hill fight against Khalil Roundtree. Usually when they put fights like this together as main events, the idea might be, hey, it could be a potential contender fight. We haven't necessarily heard that, but if Hill wins this, it's not like he's going to leapfrog Yuri Prohaska. I don't know how you'd feel, Eric, if it were the other way with Roundtree winning, but I mean, what do you think? What do you think of this whole, what do you want next if it's not Poatan?
I definitely want Yuri. And I even said, I think I don't know if you were around for this, but I think me and Jake did winners and losers after Ankalaev beat Pereira. And I said biggest winner of the card is actually Yuri Prohaska, because I think Yuri has the best chance to jump up here and get the next title shot. I don't think that Yuri was ever going to beat Pereira. It just didn't seem like it was in the cards unless he got a little lucky. So I would say Yuri Prohaska would be a great choice for the title. And it's also, promoters' dream dream. He's always trying to fight. He'll take, whatever fight they put in front of him. And I think that is something that the UFC views as a positive for, a potential contender. And then secondly, I do, so when it comes to Roundtree, you look at his record and there's not a whole lot of like really high quality wins there. He beat like Carl Roberson's like I think one of his best wins, and I believe he had a split decision win over a contender. It's escaping me right now, but I remember hating the decision. But regardless, I think that Jamal Hill, if he were to get a highlight reel knockout, and for whatever reason Yuri Prohaska wasn't available, I think you could do worse than a Jamal Hill. Title shot. But if Roundtree were to win, it still doesn't get me there. I'll be honest.
How do you feel about that, Jake? I'm curious what you would say, because I could see a big performance from Roundtree actually changing the tune potentially, but it would still kind of take some of those other things Eric's talking about shaking out too. What about you, Jake?
Yes, so I agree with that. Let's say Poatan is not available, which maybe that'll be a good segue after I make this point. If he's not available, I don't mind Olberg, but talking more about this weekend, Jamal Hill doesn't do it for me as much as Khalil. I think it's a much more straightforward answer if Khalil wins, simply because he had such an amazing fight with Poatan, and that was his one loss in recent memory. Jamal's coming off of 2 now, and that's to Yuri. So Yuri's coming off of a win over Jamal, of course. I think Jamal is a little bit lower on the pedestal there. I guess it's time to bring out the tinfoil hat. So one thought that I had occur to me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. I saw Oscar Willis post something about this as well. But Poatan and his team put out a video of him stepping on the scale, and he was like 245 pounds. Seems pretty close to heavyweight to me. My thinking is they could be holding Poatan till they get this John Jones situation ironed out. And if John cannot come back and they just need to get they need to get Tom a fight, maybe they decide that, hey, if we can't put John and Tom together, let's put Poatan and Tom together. And maybe that's why there's been such a holdup in this thing.
The only thing I'm going to do to poke a little hole in your
Sure.
tinfoil hat is from the conversation I had with Poatan before he fought Ankalaev and unfortunately for him lost the belt, was the fact that, we talked a little bit about the heavyweight situation and intrigue there. And I asked him, hey, would you need to put on size like John Jones did? And he's like, no, honestly, I'm about the size I'd want to be if I was fighting at heavyweight anyway. So I don't know that that's necessarily going to be the thing that points to heavyweight, but I don't think you're necessarily wrong either. You know what I mean? Just maybe for a different reason.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
I would say so. I do remember that because I edited the video, right? So
you sure did.
I do remember that. But yeah, like you said, I think it's less about the weight, but more about the just like they haven't said anything, and that's like kind of weird. And they haven't announced anything with John and Tom yet, so you've got these two things going on. And first off, how would you guys feel about a Tom Poatan thing? I know we're getting on a bit of a tangent here, but just quick thoughts.
Quick thoughts, I'll tell you. I'm sorry if Eric had the window there, but I'll just give you a quick thought there. I am okay with it, frankly. If they're not going to get John Jones and Tom Aspinall together, I don't know that I feel all that like hyped up that Tom Aspinall could fight Cyril Gane next. That's not really. There's a little bit of back and forth, but frankly, there's a lot more juice there's that juice again, to a fight with Pereira, especially if Pereira wins that fight, because then you'll get John Jones back for it. So it makes all the sense in the world.
Eric, how about you?
I actually, I was prepared to jump on and be like, nah, I'm good. Like Aspinall's too big, but you kind of swayed me on that at the end, Scott, where it's like, well, that is a good point. Like if Pereira wins,
gotta think
every
with your promoter's
time
hat.
I get out, they pull me back in.
Yeah. All right, you got me on it. All right, I'm glad you went first because you got me on that. Yeah, all right, sign me up. Yeah, Pereira versus Aspinall. Sure, I'm in.
I hadn't thought about that. That's crazy. That was a great observation, Scott.
About that. This is what we keep you around, Scott. 4D chess over here.
Hey,
That's true.
There we go. And you know what? That's like kind of Pereira's like thing. He did the same thing at middleweight. Like he won the belt, lost it, went up to like this would be the epitome of speed running to like GOAT status. If he's the first guy to ever do 3 belts in the UFC. Anywho, I think that's enough of the side tangent. We'll see what happens at 205 if we do get an announcement soon, and hopefully that Tom John all roads lead back to Tom and John, as I've told Scott last
No,
night.
no, no. Now they're leading to Baku, Azerbaijan,
Yes,
dude.
there we go. There's a good segue, Scott. So, yes, Baku, Azerbaijan. It is a place on Earth, and the UFC will be going there this Saturday night. It's going to be a little bit of an earlier card, 3 p.m. main card on ABC network television. The prelims will be starting at noon on ESPN. We haven't talked too much about the fight of Hill versus Roundtree. Eric, if you want to talk a little bit about that fight. Also, one thing to note, Roundtree has some new custom shorts. There was a little bit of a kerfuffle about that, but I think he deserves them. So, Eric, with this main event fight, would you care to break it down for us? I like hearing you talk about him.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to Jamal Hill, his striking's powerful. He uses his reach really well, and I think that bodes well for him. I actually think he'd be a great boxer. If he were to ever like transition to boxing, I think that his style fits really well with that. His kicks, they need work. Sometimes they're naked kicks, and when he does throw them, so that's one issue that I have with Jamal Hill. And Roundtree's more of like a kickboxer, like a true kickboxer. But again, like defenses, neither of their specialties, they're not really grapplers either. I'd definitely favor Jamal Hill here. I know he's the betting underdog, and we'll talk about that later. But in this fight, I think that, they're both powerful. I just think that when it comes to Roundtree, he was like, if everyone will rewatch that fight, he was like beat bad. Like that was one of the worst beatings I've seen in the UFC in a long time. Like Poatan beat the brakes off of Roundtree there. So for
But
me,
only
I
from
think
like round 3, like middle of round 3 on. It was competitive for a little while.
competitive for sure. And he almost, I believe he, I don't think it was like labeled a knockdown, but he had Roundtree had Pereira hurt badly at the end
Yeah,
of the second. Um, and who knows, Pereira could have gotten saved by the bell there.
it
But
happened before in
that,
the Adesanya fight, that first one.
yep, 3-4-5 was really bad, like
Well,
really
there was no
bad.
5. That ended in 4.
Yeah,
Oh, was it? It was stopped in between round four, in between 4 and 5. Is that what
Yeah,
it
it
was?
didn't get to 5. It didn't get to 5.
Yeah. That was bad. That was bad. So I don't know what kind of shape we're gonna see Roundtree, and there's no way I'm betting him as a favorite here. I don't know how he's gonna look.
that's
So
fair.
that's, I don't know, my analysis of this fight. I think it's gonna be interesting to see though, for sure.
Any thoughts on the main event, Scott?
No, I mean, I think it's honestly, this looks like an action-packed fight to me. I think there was a method to the madness in putting this card together. Both this fight and the co-main event with Rafael Fiziev and Ignacio Bahamondes. I think there is a very clear. This is going to be a lot of action. You're going to have a lot of fun watching ABC, watching network TV this time. The biggest audience you can put together in North America. Put it over the literal airwaves that we still have, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was actually that perfectly segues into my next topic. We've got in this co-main event Rafael Fiziev taking on Ignacio Bahamondes, and like you said, network television about as wide of an audience that you could get. Eric, I'll throw it back to you. Like, do you think that this huge audience that the UFC might not typically have access to for these fight nights are going to see some fight of the night performances in this co-main and main event?
Absolutely. I love these last two fights. They're striking fights. I know Bahamondes had a triangle choke win against Jalen Turner last time out, but primarily he is a striker. His kicks, we've all seen the highlight reel spinning wheel kick to the face that Bahamondes had. I forget who it was against, but was it Grigos? I gotta look it up. But regardless, Bahamondes is fantastic striker, and Fiziev also a fantastic striker. Interestingly enough, I will say that both of these fighters are taking this fight on 3 months' notice. So obviously Fiziev is coming off of three losses, two to Justin Gaethje, both wars. And Bahamondes coming off of a win, but they fought on right around the same time in March. So I find that interesting that they both kind of what took those fights and then seemingly immediately go right back into fight camp. I think that's interesting. And I'm kind of surprised that Fiziev especially would do that after the amount of damage that he took against Gaethje. Obviously, Gaethje is the most violent man in the sport. So this is a fascinating last two fights. And yeah, ABC, especially during the time of day, right? Like it's going to be like I'd say that those co-main and main event spots are going to go off at like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock p.m. I mean, that's a massive time for an audience at 5, 6 o'clock ABC on a Saturday. That's a big audience, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that those two fights will deliver. Fingers crossed, but I don't know how much I do have to cross my fingers. It seems like they'll kind of deliver themselves. We have a good pair of fights at the top of the card. Speaking of the top of the card, below we have some other fights to go through, guys. There's a lot to choose from. Eric, I'll start with you. What is your fight to watch for the rest of the card?
Yeah, Messiah versus Oralbi. That's on the prelim card here. Oralbi, I've always actually been a fan of. Solid grappler, solid striker. He can kind of do a little bit of both. Musayev also like newer in the UFC. Yes, this is his debut, but he was on over at Ryzen. He had some pretty good fights over there too. The betting odds say that this is going to be a war, right? They say it's I believe it's the most likely to not go to decision, besides the main event, which is obviously a 5-round light heavyweight fight. So I think obviously betting odds. I'm not breaking news here. They're not expecting us to go to decision, and I would expect that to hold true. To hold true.
Scott, how about you?
I was gonna pick this fight, but Eric got to it first, and I so random and out of the left field here, but I don't know how much you guys ever picture the voice of Mike Goldberg, former UFC commentator,
Yeah.
saying names, but I like to imagine him saying Mittebeck oral by.
Yeah, that's
You
pretty
can
good.
see it, right?
I can see it.
That
was
he has a
just-
certain cadence to it.
Yes,
Yes.
that was actually a very good impression too.
Thank you.
His most famous quote would probably be trying to finish this fight right here, right now. Like that's the same Goldie we're talking about, right?
We'll see you inside the octagon.
Oh my gosh, before my time, before my
I'll
time.
just say,
It is. This is before your time.
I'll just say
Anyways.
after watching the fight recommendations, and we'll talk about them later, it makes me miss Goldberg. No beef with
Yeah.
Anik. I think he does a great job, but I love
Annex
him.
number one. Yeah.
They had an overlap, if
I
I'm
don't
not
even know,
mistaken,
dude.
right?
I actually think
There was
they're
some
like,
overlap.
I think they're neck and neck. I love Goldberg.
No
He's-
offense to
I'm not saying
Goldie. Annex number one. He's set the bar at a different level. But we're off on too much of a tangent. That's my fault. I'm gonna bring it back.
I
I'm
was
gonna give you
gonna
my
say.
fight. I want to give you my fight. Nazim Sadikov against Nicholas Mota. And not only is Sadikov in particular a fight of the night type of guy, 2 bonuses out of 4 UFC fights, he is a New Yorker from Brooklyn who was born in Baku, Azerbaijan.
I did not know
He is
that.
going to be pumped
Wow.
to fight in front of his people, his countrymen. I can't see a way that this fight is just boring. He may not win. I think he's probably the favorite here. I don't know the odds, but I would imagine he may not win, but he is definitely going to deliver.
So you just mentioned the odds, Eric. You're the guy to talk to about when it comes to that kind of stuff. Are you ready to give us your 3 bets in 3 minutes?
Yep, thanks for the shout there, Jake. UFC Azerbaijan, 3 bets in 3 minutes. Let's get started with Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree, the main event. Jamal Hill coming off of 2 losses, once to Alex Pereira and another one to Yuri Prochazka. Khalil Roundtree, kind of the same thing. Coming off a loss to Alex Pereira, one took way more damage than the other one. Khalil Roundtree almost like too tough for his own good type of thing. I'm sure that beatdown has definitely affected him in his training and stuff like that. That's why I haven't seen him since October. For me, I think that we're getting a discount here on Jamal Hill. I think that Jamal Hill is 6'4", and Khalil Roundtree 6'1", not really a grappler. His kicks are pretty good, and I definitely think that he'll be using those leg kicks against Jamal Hill. As long as Jamal Hill isn't just totally a fish at checking leg kicks, and he really shouldn't be at this point. I think that he has the power advantage. He has the reach advantage, where Roundtree's really going to have to put himself into danger coming into the pocket, getting hit in order to land shots, where Hill's going to be able to use his footwork, get back a little bit better. So, for me, I think that this is a great spot to bet on Jamal Hill. I'm going to take him by knockout, plus 285 over on Bet Rivers. Solid bet, and that's my main event pick. And then we're going to the co-main event. And we got Ignacio Bahamondes versus Rafael Fiziev. Now, I got a couple issues here. I don't think that Fiziev should be taking this fight so quickly, but, he knows his better body than I do, I guess, at this point. He's an underdog plus 110, and I thought that money line price was pretty solid. My thing with Bahamondes is, he's a big guy, but, I was looking at the tape and I was reviewing some of, like, his fights, and, I've watched a lot of Bahamondes. I remember, like, when he first came into the UFC, when he fought John Makdessi, he lost that fight by split decision. I had a bet on Makdessi, and I hated that decision. I thought that Makdessi did not win that fight. For me, I think that Makdessi really showed how he gets hit in the body a lot, and I think Fiziev is so good at hitting in the body that I actually think he's gonna come away with a win, get back on the right track. 3 losses in a row for him, but I'm gonna go with Fiziev here by decision plus 275. You can get that over on DraftKings, and I think that Fiziev is the play here. And I understand 3-fight losing streak. You might be a little hesitant to do that, but it's only against the best of the best. I feel like I made that mistake last week with Usman, and I'm not going to make it here. I think Fiziev's the better fighter, and I think that he's going to use his body work to get him to the promised land. And then for the final bet, we're going to go way down the card here, and we're going to go to the prelims. Jung Ho Park is fighting Ismail Nardiev, and Nardiev, you might not remember him. He fought Sean Brady way back in the day, lost by unanimous decision. He also fought Chance Recountre. He lost that fight also by decision. Then he left the UFC for a while. He went to a bunch of different promotions. But he went to Brave CF, which is a lower level promotion. He's now back in the UFC. Fought Bruno Silva to unanimous decision. Basically, long story short, I like Ismail Nardiev here to get back into the win column. I've never really been a huge Jung Ho Park fan. I do like this fight to go the distance as well. I think that there's value there, but for Nardiev, I like him in striking exchanges. I think he's got a really good strength of schedule. Even like Chance Recountre, he fought Bilal Muhammad when he was on his come up. So I just think that the strength schedule is really good there, and I like his chances come Saturday. Saturday probably early afternoon. Give me Nardiev here by decision plus 400. I think that's a fine bet, and it's slightly more than 3 bets in 3 minutes.
Alrighty, Eric, thank you so much for that. So to close out this weekend in Baku, Scott, what do we have for our event rating?
So the event rating we've got this time is a 48. I think that's a solid fight night score. It's not spectacular, and frankly, it's even just a little underwhelming for a network aired card. It's not that these are bad fights either, but then the main and the co-main, they're maybe not amazing from a ranking perspective. There's also some weird oddities with some of the top 15 talent throughout the card. You've got Curtis Blades on here, who's like a top 10 guy, and he's fighting Rizvan Kuniev, who's distinctly outside of that range. And Takir Ulanbekov, who's definitely a top 15 type of flyweight, going against Azat Maxim, and he hasn't been in his action as much lately. He's definitely lower ranked. It's a weird type of way that they arrange this card, but there's still a lot of fights on here. I like a lot of good fighters. It's just kind of strange, so I think that owes to the rating.
Fair enough. Yeah. 48, not too bad, though. Not too shabby. I feel like we're trending in the right direction when it comes to fight nights. We had what was it, a 68 or a 64 the other week? So
it was like a 64 or 65, something like that for Atlanta. Atlanta was a better card. I mean, frankly, that would have been, at least it would have been a more prestigious from a ranking perspective to put on network television. This probably has more potential to deliver the fireworks, though.
Yeah. So let's talk about Atlanta. So on Saturday night, Kamaru Usman, former welterweight champion of the world, on a 3-fight skid, if you count.
3-fight skid.
3-fight
Two
skid.
fights are championship fights to the same guy.
Yes. Yeah. Comes back from that and has a dominant performance over Joaquin Buckley over the course of 5 rounds. And I guess my question is Usman back after this performance? Eric, I'm gonna throw it to you. Is Usman back after this performance over Joaquin Buckley?
I feel like there's like a little bit of an elephant in the room. Last week, there was no Scott. I jumped in here, kind of just trashed on Usman, trashed on Rose Namajunas, and 0 for 3 in the betting world, and 0 for 3, like 3 bets, 3 minutes, 3 losses. Not what we're looking for.
The old guard is not ready to surrender, Eric.
I guess not. I'll say this about Kamaru. Is he back? No. I would say he's not back. I think that I feel like I've undervalued Leon Edwards to a point that's a little bit too far, where I thought that Kamaru's wrestling is still really good, and Leon Edwards' takedown defense is still really good. So I feel like that was a big part of my miscalculation on the fight, where it was I thought that Leon Edwards' takedown defense wasn't as good as what it is. Joaquin Buckley's defense was frustratingly not planned. There was, just laying on your back. There was no frames. There was no getting your knee up. There was no back to the cage. I mean, there was no even giving up the back to try to get up. There was really just none of it for 3 rounds. Then he seemed to figure it out in the fourth and fifth round. My issue with saying that Kamaru Usman's back, I thought for 3 rounds he was awesome. So any 3-round fight that he has coming up, I'm very interested. In the fifth round, it was a lot of the same stuff that we saw against Leon. Now, I don't know if this was a similar situation where it was like maybe he was feeling cold feet after first time being in the fifth round. Well, I guess second time being in the fifth round, but it's a new opponent. With Leon, where he clearly is up 3 to 4 rounds, and then it's the fifth round, and he looked a little hesitant, and he keeps dipping his head off of striking exchanges. He keeps dipping his head to the right. It's a wrestler tendency. But my issue with it is that Buckley nearly landed an uppercut from hell like 4 times.
I remember that.
And he did land one or two, but not flush. And if it landed, it was probably Toodles for Kamaru Usman. So any fifth round fight, any 5-round fight that he has, I'm very interested to bet like fifth round knockout for any fighter that he goes up against, honestly.
How about you, Scott? You think Usman is back?
So, in a sense, I agree with Eric that no, he's not back. But in another way, I really do think, yes, I think he has reinserted himself into that upper echelon of the welterweight division, which we've kind of slept on him for a little bit now because he hasn't been there. He hasn't fought in a welterweight fight in a couple of years. I think this at least puts him back in that conversation where, no, he's not going to be the next guy who gets a title shot. But depending on where he goes next, might not be that far off because he is a highly accomplished champion. He is truly one of the most accomplished fighters on the UFC roster right now, active guys. So let's say they put a fight together with him against, an elite contender, maybe one or two, someone like Belal, or even if they can get Shavkat Rakhmonov to maybe not be the next title contender. I think something like that puts him right back in the mix there. And who knows? He's got the wrestling. I wouldn't rule out the possibility that he actually works his way to another championship opportunity. Will he win? I don't know. But in that sense, I think he is back.
So at the post-fight press conference, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that he said, they actually asked him, do you feel like you're the best you've ever been? And he was like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, I'm 38 years old. Like, no. So there is no delusion there when it comes to that. He's being honest in that regard. But in terms of the question, is he back? I don't know if there was ever really enough evidence that he ever left. That fight against Khamzat at middleweight on short notice.
Well, he did leave to middleweight.
Yeah, that is true.
but I hear you.
Yeah, so I don't think you could draw too many conclusions from that, especially he showed that Khamzat is human past the first round. So I thought that was a pretty good performance. And then with Leon, that first head kick one dominated the fight over the first 5 rounds. Then maybe he didn't have a great game plan for the second fight. And also credit to Leon as well for just doing well. He's a former champion, defended the title. So yeah, I think looking back on it in hindsight, we were given Usman, I guess the fan base as a whole, maybe not we particularly, but maybe giving him a little bit of a tough time. I mentioned before the post-fight press conference, and after the fight, Belal Muhammad had actually tweeted at Kamaru Usman saying, "See you soon." When asked about said tweet from Belal, this is what he had to say.
Belal Muhammad quickly tweeted, "See you soon." Is that something you would entertain if the UFC, came to you about it?
Who was it?
Belal Muhammad.
Who was it?
Former welterweight champion Belal Muhammad.
Next.
So what do you guys think about Belal getting turned down by Kamaru there?
It was a pretty hilarious response, honestly. Like, who?
It was
Who is
good.
it?
It was good mic work. Respect
Honestly,
to the man.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the type of thing that gets Erich going. Erich is all about the performative, the all the hype building and all that. That's an Erich move right there. And then, frankly, he did a good job with it. He sold that extremely well.
Yeah.
I'm box office. I am all about box office all the time. Brock Lesnar was so fun back then. And even if he wasn't, dude, I watched the CM Punk fight. I was down. I was down with it. I knew it was going to go well, but I was down with it.
Alrighty, so there you have it. Usman saying he does not want to fight Bilal Muhammad. He was very adamant that he wanted a title shot next against JDM and Islam Makhachev. Scott, off the top of your head, just seeing that and hearing him calling for that title shot, what do you think about Usman's calling for that?
I don't feel any different. I don't think he's quite at the title shot stage. I think there's too many people who've been doing the work at this division. So I would say one more fight minimum.
How about you, Eric?
I think it's kind of hilarious that two Ali Abdelaziz clients are like, you know what, we're gonna wait for a title shot, and I don't care. Gaethje's doing it, Kamaru Usman's doing it. I kind of think it's funny. And then, they got a little bit of leverage. They're legends. They feel like they're owed something. Like Justin Gaethje definitely feels like he's owed something. He said it. I forget what podcast it was, but he said it on a podcast. Like, I'm owed. I'm owed a title shot. I want it. I'm not fighting until I get one. I think that's kind of interesting to see the tables get turned, how the turntables may turn. That meme. But yeah, definitely no title shot. There's way too many guys at 170 that deserve it, and he'll be an underdog to probably any other top five contender. So no.
Yeah, that Bilal one makes so much sense to me personally, and I don't know. The rest of it doesn't. It's kind of complicated. We gotta have some number one contenders fights. I think there's not like a clear answer at this point.
He'd be a big underdog to Muhammad, Brady, and Rakhmonov. I guess Leon Edwards, he'd be an underdog to him too. So, but that'd be the closest.
Yeah, but we can't see that fight again. We've seen it too many times at this point. So
the trilogy stays the trilogy. No more.
yes, yeah, I think we could keep it at 3. So
Fight Ian Gary. I'll just say that you should fight Ian Gary.
yeah, I could see that one. For me personally, I would love Ian Gary and Sean Brady, and I think Sean Brady seems to really want that fight too. I think Ian would do it if he, if his hand was forced. I think he kind of thinks he deserves the title shot. I mean, all these guys kind of think they deserve the title shot. Sean Brady seems to be the only one who understands what's going on.
There's only one title.
Yeah, exactly. So, moving off of Kamaru Usman, Buckley, of course, was at the other end of the octagon that night. Do you think that his stock has dropped or gone up, stayed the same? What do you guys think about the state of Buckley's stock? I'll start with you, Scott.
I would say I think it's in a hold. I don't think he lost. I think he put up a very interesting performance later on in the fight where he showed, okay, I can make these adjustments. He didn't give up. I think very highly of Kamaru Usman still. So frankly, the fact that he lost to him, I think just shows, okay, he's not quite at that level yet. But I think he's still young enough in this sport and he can still make adjustments. Hopefully he can learn to work on ways to get back up to his feet. I don't think he loses a ton here, so I'm going to put him in a hold.
I like that. What about you, Eric?
I'll definitely say he lost a little bit, and here's why I'll say that. And honestly, the performance was what it was. We understand that. Honestly, I was confused with his get up. It wasn't even like an attempt. It's like he didn't understand frames. He didn't understand getting your hips up and getting your knees to your chest. Those are pretty blue belt level things that just pretty much weren't talked about. My thing about the fight and his performance was the commentary was pointing these things out, and we're talking about his camp and his coach and his teammates. He's never been taken down. That's what Dominic Cruz saying. He's never been taken down in camp, clearly. And he was because this is rudimentary stuff that he's not even trying to do. That's what Dominic Cruz is saying. And then the other commentator, I forget who it was. I don't remember if it was it Bisping or DC. I don't remember. But he was saying that on the telecast, he was saying that his camp is what camp is he even at? It's oh, it's very tight-lipped. It's there's not a lot of high-level contenders there. We don't know who he's bringing in. He doesn't talk about it very much. That always concerned me about any fighter. Obviously, we didn't have the podcast back then, but back in 2016, I was begging for Conor McGregor to leave the SPG Ireland and go to a real professional level MMA school where he could train with the best of the best. And obviously, that didn't end up happening. But for me,
he's not a professional level person.
Well, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
We will.
Bringing up quick
Uh,
hits too quickly.
yeah. That's just my thing. Is just when it comes to a fighter that's not training with the best of the best and then comes in that unprepared, I get concerned.
I see. So I see what you're saying. As far as the escapes, like from bottom, or at least like getting into better position, the frames at blue belt. I actually do understand that word, so we're good there. But in terms of him doing it, just like he's not trying enough stuff out, taking any risks, because it seems like from what you're saying, he was just kind of accepting the bottom position.
Yeah, and he took a ton of damage too.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like he was controlling posture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like his busted
Mostly in the
open-
first round, and later on it was less so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, he was mounted in the second round. I was super concerned with his grappling.
Fair enough. So not just the takedown defense, but also just like his work off of his back as well.
Yeah, I was like, this isn't going to work. Like Shavkat, he'll never beat Shavkat Rakhmonov if he doesn't learn how to get out of those positions.
Yeah, that would be tough. So.
But by the way, it was Paul Felder on it, wasn't it?
Was it Paul Felder?
Felder,
I'm like,
that's what it was.
Yeah.
Felder, DC.
No.
Okay, that's
Felder and Cruz.
Oh, just
Oh,
Felder
well,
and
that
Cruz.
DC. Yeah, they're both DC.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's what I meant for sure. Happy coincidence. Okay,
There you go.
moving on to the co-main event. Rose Namajunas defeated Miranda Maverick over the course of 3 rounds. Rose, another former champion that we're talking about here. Do you think that she has one more title run left in her? And I'll start with Erich on this one.
Well, I can't come on here with a straight face and say yes after I said that she might be nearing retirement last week. So she definitely, her wrestling was definitely better than I expected it to be. I still am not super bullish on her striking, and I think that was like a, I don't know. I thought Miranda Maverick won the first round. I know only one judge gave her the first round, and yeah, Rose performed better than I expected. I still like if I look at like that division, like obviously we have no idea what Macy Barber's deal is, but anyone in the top 5, like I guess what's next for her, I would look at Rose versus Alexa Grasso. Like I wouldn't want Jasmine Jasudavicius for her. I mean, I guess if I was her, Jasmine would probably be favored in that fight. And then you'd probably look at maybe like Alexa Grasso, and I think that would be like a little bit closer line. She'd still be an underdog to anyone in the top 6. Yeah, as far as I see it. I don't know. What do you think, Scott?
You know, the funny thing is Rose is still only 32 years old. We're talking about Jasudavicius is like 36, 37. Or maybe she's only 35, but like a lot of the women in that weight class are actually kind of older than her. She's just been around for a long time. She got a lot of miles. She does have that. To get back to the original question, do I see a title run in her? I think it's going to get stopped. I don't think there is an upper limit that sees her get one more title fight, save for one weird instance. If Zhongwei Li can swoop in and take that title and Rose picks up the right win at the right time, there's a story there where Zhang can potentially finally vanquish the dragon that has pestered her in the UFC, and that being Thug Rose. So there is a small path, but I don't see it.
For that fight, enlighten me. Would that be a rematch or would that be a trilogy? Did they fight before the head kick?
It's a trilogy because Rose won by knockout the first time, and then the second time in New York, that one was a competitive. Honestly, you could score it for Zhongwei Li, but it did go for Rose Namajunas.
And then the Carlos Esparza fight happened after that.
Well, yeah, they kind of changed everything because the dragon that has plagued Rose Namajunas has always been Carlos Esparza. So everybody's got somebody who's just stuck on their back.
Fair enough. That's a great shout, Scott. I feel like because I guess the appetite for Rose getting another title shot at 125, 115.
Getting
it
a
was.
title shot.
Yeah, getting a title shot rather. Yeah, kind of not so much there for me. But now you bring up the Zhang Wei Li fight, and then it just gives me a flat.
Story.
Yeah,
there's a story there. Sometimes that's all it takes. But frankly, I still don't even see it.
Yeah. So I can understand that. Alrighty, I think that wraps up UFC Atlanta. Another thing that happened over the weekend was PFL, well, specifically Thursday night. The semifinals finished up. So we've got the finals for the next round coming up in a few months. We've got at 170 Thad Jean versus Logan Storley, both of those guys coming off of wins, and at 145 Jesus Pinedo versus Movlid Khaibulaev, if I got that.
Abulayev, yeah.
Khaibulaev. Alrighty. So Scott, you are definitely you've got your eye on the PFL probably the most out of the three of us. What do you think about these two finals that were set on Thursday?
Um, when I look at 170, I see Thad Gene, the fighter, versus Logan Storley, the wrestler. I don't see Logan Storley as a actual like fighter. I mean, he fights, right? And he can throw punches and strikes, and sometimes he'll get some really good damage in there. But frankly, he's really just a wrestler who's sometimes mixing in elements of fighting. So I'm really not as interested in this fight as I should be because Jean is a very interesting prospect in the sport, but Storley's style is just not fun. On the other side, though, 145, I like this one better. Jesus Pinedo against Movie Habalayev. I think that there's the fact that we've got Pinedo's KO power against Habalayev's relentless grappling, which is a little more active and kind of damage oriented than that of Storley. So I'm more interested to see what happens in this final when it happens later in the summer than the other ones. That's kind of where I sit. I don't know about you, Eric. Did you get the chance to watch those fights?
I did indeed. Did you score Thad Gene versus Jason Jackson? Because I thought that was kind of controversial. I had Jackson.
It was hyper close. It's a split decision. I mean, when you get that, someone sees it one way, someone sees the other way. I can understand why we'll get both sides of that. I think I probably would have had 2 out of 3 rounds for Jackson, but I think his rounds were not as clear as the one for Thad Gene. Round 1 being a pretty solid round for him.
Yeah, I was
So
like,
you know what? If you're gonna leave him close, it's gonna make it hard to win, right?
I was kind of laughing at the decision because I was like, man, Jackson won 14 out of 15 minutes and still lost.
I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, round 2 is a whole lot of almost nothing. So did anyone win those minutes of the round? It's really hard to say. But I get it. That round 1, he did probably win at that Gene because of that 1 minute that you're talking about. And round 3 is really close, but not as much, and it's probably more Jackson. Round 2, almost nothing happened. I kind of edge it to Jackson, but you know what? You need to do more. That's just the way it is. You gotta take these fights. You don't when they say never leave it in the hands of the judges, what they mean is don't make it close enough so that the judges have to pick. Because if you do your job, most of the time the judges, especially competent ones, are not going to mess this up.
Was impressed by Jesus Pinedo though. That knockout was really solid. Over I forget his name, sort of the B, I believe.
Gabriel Braga. That was a
Braga.
rematch of their championship fight from a few years ago. Yeah.
Yep. I was impressed by that, and that was a really good knockout. His counter striking looks super serious. And then also Khaibulaev.
You got it, dude.
Yep. I thought, yeah, obviously his grappling's really solid. His striking's meh. Against Kim, I thought that Kim was kind of unprepared for the grappling exchanges, or not unprepared, just not on the same level. So yeah, I think I'll watch it. Absolutely.
Alrighty, so that takes care of the fallout of what happened on Thursday. This weekend on Friday we have another set of semifinals. Scott, why don't you take it away for these semifinals? Let us know what's going on at 155, 135, and women's 125 as well.
Yeah. I mean, here I think there's a little bit of intrigue and a little bit of less intrigue. I don't love the field that they put together for bantamweight, so I'm kind of not as jazzed about that. I'm interested to see who comes out of it. There'll be an intriguing, fringe type of potential prospect down the road or something like that. And then we got Liz Carmouche is certainly in the mix for 125 pounds. I think it's hard to see her not keep on trucking even at her age. But I think the intrigue is definitely there for lightweight. Gachi Rabadanov against Kevin Lee, and that weird thing we talked about a few weeks ago where they matched. Yeah. They threw him into the mix in the semifinals. It may not matter. Rabadanov is really good. And Brent Primus against Alfie Davis. There's some really nice style clash here. Primus the grappler, he's got a go-go plot on his resume, and Alfie Davis the kickboxer. I'd like to see how this one goes. So that's where I think the real interest is in the Friday fights, which they're on ESPN, 8 p.m. main card. But some of these fights in this tournament are in the prelims, which start at 5 p.m. So if you care about all of them, you're gonna have to tune in a little earlier than the main card.
Yeah, that's interesting for like a semifinal bout. It being on the prelims, that's an interesting dynamic, I would say. So I guess because this is we have two fights this weekend, we've got 2 event ratings, don't we, Scott?
We do. And this one, I need to preface that I made a small change to the way I compute the scores.
Oh.
PFL is the reason why. This is the entire reason why, because Fight Matrix they have generated historical rankings, which I typically use. The problem is they only generate quarterly. We had fights in April and June, so those are not factored in. So it kind of throws everything off. So I had to redo the PFL one with that in mind, and it's something I'm going to keep in mind going forward with the way we do these. It basically didn't change UFC, just so you know.
Okay.
UFC went from 49 to 48. This one, I don't recall what it would have been, but we're at 12, which doesn't sound great, but frankly, it's better than we've sometimes get in the Apex. So how bad could it be?
Yeah.
It was last week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that one would have been adjusted as well if I had done that sooner, to be fair. I think that score would have also bumped up.
fair enough.
I'll just call out the odds for the PFL card really quick. We talked about Rabadanov versus Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee is now plus 1100. It's gone up from even, I believe it was like the plus 600 that it was up when we talked about it a couple weeks ago. So that's pretty crazy. Liz Carmouche is a minus 520 favorite over Laura Dana. And Brent Primus is minus 200 against Alfie Davis. So just calling out those odds for you guys.
Alrighty, there we go. Thank you for that, Eric. So that is this weekend wrapped up with a bow, tied on top. Scott, why don't you take it away for quick hits?
Guys, we've got a lot of quick hits here, so buckle up. And unfortunately, we do have to lead with very unfortunate news. Amy Askren, the wife of Ben Askren, who we learned earlier this month, had been hospitalized with pneumonia. She said Tuesday on social media that the former Bellator N1 champion is starting the evaluation process for a lung transplant. They are praying for a miracle with the current lungs. We certainly are too. Our best wishes, I'm sure, speak for you guys, to the Askren family and Ben in particular. Movsar Evloev, there's no segue here. Movsar Evloev will welcome Aaron Pico to the UFC. They'll be fighting in the co-main event of UFC on ABC in Abu Dhabi on July 26th. That's per the UFC. Paulo Costa, in another change around these upcoming events here, shifting over from UFC 317 to 318 for his fight against Roman Kopylov. Costa has been battling an illness per MMA fighting, so just got to wait another month for that one, or really a couple weeks. We also have, centering around UFC 318, speaking of, Dana White, who said earlier this week that 318 was built specifically for Dustin the Diamond Poirier's retirement fight in New Orleans. Now the Diamond is saying that he will fight, well, not fight, he will walk out with fellow Louisianan Lil Wayne. Weezy apparently said he's in through his people. Poirier's words were specifically, his guy said he's in. So keep an eye on that if you're a big fan of Poirier. There's more excitement and fanfare coming for his big send-off here. Nasruddin Imavov, he will no longer be the backup fighter for UFC 319's middleweight title fight between Dricus du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev. He said, quote, no backup anymore. Conditions changed. And then he implied that maybe a fight with Kyle Bahalio could be next, or at least that's what he wants. So maybe we see more on that later. Arman Sarukian and the other side of the backup coin. We lost one. We're getting a new one here. Arman Sarukian is going to be the backup fighter for UFC 317's lightweight title fight between Ilia Topuria and Charles do Bronx Oliveira for the vacant belt. MMA Fighting has confirmed this. That Arman Sarukian had put that out there on social media first, but yes, now it's confirmed. Speaking of Charlie Olives, there is a biopic coming about the former lightweight champion, potential future lightweight champion. 405 Films announced after acquiring the rights to his life story. We don't know much more other than it's going to film in Las Vegas and Brazil. The working title, as per a PR email that I received, is Do Bronx. Makes sense. And lastly, again, this is not as serious as the terrible news afflicting the Askren family, but unfortunate nonetheless. Brad Katona, the only two-time winner of a season of The Ultimate Fighter, has been released by the UFC. His second stint is now over. Per multiple reports, he went 4-5 across 2 stints with the company. And that's it.
Wow, an Oliveira biopic. Inject that straight into my veins. I'm curious if it's going to be in English or if it's going to be in Portuguese, like a Brazil-produced film similar to like the Jose Aldo biopic. I forget what it's called, but yeah, I'd love to see an Oliveira biopic.
Now, I do have one more thing that we wanted to break out from Quick Hits. I wish we didn't even have to talk about this. It's annoying. It is what it is, but it's the elephant in the room. Conor McGregor getting into a fight once again with someone who is not a fighter, the former two-division UFC champion, seen on video decking a fellow clubgoer in Ibiza early Tuesday morning. Once again, fighting someone outside the cage. It's ridiculous. He just can't stop this. 6 years ago, same thing. Sucker punched a 50-year-old dude in a Dublin pub. Now we got him fighting in Spain. There's no word from him or his legal team or anything like that, or about legal ramifications. But God, are you guys as sick of this guy as I am? I'm really sick of him.
I'm gonna answer first, and then I'm gonna let Eric go. I'm not sick of him because I'm numb to it at this point. When I got the notification on my phone that this had happened, I was like, what else is new? It's like, I don't know. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. That guy from 2016 does not exist in my mind anymore, or what we thought he was. Some people have said, he was always there. Scott, you and I had a conversation recently, and I believe that is the words that you used. So that's where I stand on it. But Eric, I'm very curious. I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Gotta get this man out of the clubs, man. I mean, it's crazy. Like part of the issue is that he's made most of his money off of alcohol brands, right? Like Proper 12. He can't stay away from the alcohol because he has Proper 12, and like even if he's not a part of that company anymore, as he's got the Forged Irish Stout now, he's trying to compete with Guinness. So it's no matter what, he can't stay away from it because he has to promote the alcohol brand. So that's part of the issue. I just don't want to see him fight anymore unless it's against a can. Like, unless you bring back Tony Ferguson or Nate
He did
Diaz.
fight a can. He fought somebody at the club.
Yeah.
You could say that.
It makes no sense. I have no idea how that is even possible to happen. I get it's in Ibiza where it's like a really big party atmosphere, but like, how is it even possible that would? I don't know. It sucks. It's a bummer. Got him right up here. This is my graduation cap for college, and it's a picture of Conor McGregor on it. So this is obviously very near and dear to me, man. I mean, this sucks. I don't want to. This is a bummer,
Take it down. Take it down.
I was a Conor McGregor fan. That's what got me into the UFC back in like 2014.
And you're definitely not alone. I mean, not me personally, but I was a little bit later during the COVID era. It's like the COVID era. It's like the baby boomer era. I feel like it's just an explosion of.
There were several eras, and they were all their own explosions. We don't have to get into that today.
Okay, let's move on from Conor. We'll talk about it the next time he hits someone else in the face at the club.
There will be a next time. Maybe we could skip it though.
Yeah, fair enough. Alrighty. So, in terms of important things, we had some homework and a very exciting piece of homework. I have to say, this was my favorite homework assignment so far. The Shane Carwin
experience.
A question for you, Scott. Is the Shane Carwin experience like a known name for these five?
That's what I named it right now.
I love it. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
First off, I have another question, or second off, I should say. I already asked you one question, but I have so many questions. Were these 5 fights in a row, or were these just at different points? Were they not asynchronous?
This is almost the entire Shane Carwin UFC career in order. He had one more fight after. It was not the most memorable of fights against Junior Dos Santos. He was basically a bloody mask at the end, so I left that one out. It's not really worth watching. The rest of it is infinitely worth watching, as you guys know. Knockout after knockout after. I mean, frankly, the power he throws, guys. I mean, you saw it on display, and anyone who watched with us, I mean, you saw it on display. It's just. He knocked out people without putting his hips into it. He just threw arm punches that booped them. The man's power, it is so rare. We talk about Derek Lewis and his power, and he obviously has tremendous power. But frankly, I don't know that we've seen before or since someone who hits like Shane Carwin.
It's beautiful. And when I was watching those 5 fights, one after the other. Well, first I didn't know the timeline of them. I mean, I probably could have put the math together because on Fight Pass it's got the numbers there, so I probably could have done that. But
It's all good.
in my head, I was like, this guy is Thanos. Like he's an absolute machine. Back in the day, was this guy like the most feared guy in the division?
He was definitely the most feared puncher, and this
Yeah.
was at the same time as Lesnar. He was coming up around the same time. Julian Dos Santos was coming up at the same time. This was a very exciting time for like up and coming heavyweights to come onto Cain Velasquez. You know, all these people that we still talk about today. That's who Eric was going to say. I bet. It was a very cool time. Fabricio Verdum, who, I mean, he had started in Pride. He actually had been there in Pride. But so many guys came along and just took over, and you got to see it. You knew it was coming, and he was part of that.
So would you say that heavyweight back then was better than heavyweight now? I'm kidding.
Heavyweight
I
back then
know.
was so much more fun.
Joking.
And I mean, part of it is they're better now, so they're more defensively sound. They're not going to get caught as easily.
That's a good.
But someone like a Sergey Pavlovich is like a modern day equivalent to a Shane Carwin.
What were you gonna say, Eric? I saw you.
The referee for the Brock Lesnar fight, and I had his
That's a
name in
great
my head.
point.
Josh Rosenthal.
It was Josh Rosenthal. Okay, I was trying to remember. I was like that referee not stopping the fight when Brock was taking punches in the bottom. Shout out to him. He did a fantastic job. Brock was defending himself intelligently the whole time. He did take a ton of damage though, but
On the other side, though, the Frank Mir stoppage. Good
horrible.
Lord. Dan Mergliata wanted Frank Mir to die.
Yeah.
I'm convinced.
You
Good
can
That
Lord.
was terrible.
Joe was pissed. He was
It was
very
a bad
upset.
Yeah,
one.
no,
I mean,
he was.
Dan Mergliata likes to let it go, and I respect that to some point. But like, I mean, there was like a bloodlust on this one. This was terrible.
With
Yeah.
heavyweights, you should be a little bit less lenient, in my opinion.
yeah, to some degree for sure.
But
Also,
no,
he was literally just out. He crumpled.
Yeah.
He was done, and then he kind of woke back up and just took more.
yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible.
But no, I mean,
But what do we think? Do we like the Shane Carwin experience? Was that fun? Do you like him now? Like, is he one of your guys maybe from back then?
yes, those were some of the best 5 fights I've watched. Especially, sorry, I've got the names right here. The Gonzaga fight was crazy.
Gabriel Gonzaga,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was insane. Just a
was
complete
fun.
flip, 180.
The first guy that I'd never seen the first fight with Shane Carwin. It was against like Adam Wheel, who was like he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and there was like
Neil
actually
Wayne.
wait. Oh yeah, sorry. What was his name
Got
again?
you. Neil Wayne.
Neil Wayne. They were like, he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good for a heavyweight. And there's like, actually, wait, no, he is a blue belt.
That's his
And I was
coach. He's a blue belt.
Oh, God. I was like, he is going to die. He's like,
That's unfortunately that is classic Goldie.
he's like, he's a blue belt, and he's passed to the side control. I was like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah, and then he died. Not actually,
Yeah.
metaphorically.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it was fantastic. Speaking of, what's the next homework assignment that we've got, Scott?
This one, I'm only giving you one fight this time, but I think you guys are both gonna love it because I know you guys. Miguel Angel Torres against Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, UFC 130. Torres, if you don't know, he had been one of the absolute greats of bantamweight at this point. Basically led the renaissance of this weight class into something nationally or internationally even. Had been dethroned at this point. And Demetrius Johnson was not really known quite yet. He was on the scene. He was coming up. We still thought him as a flyweight. Maybe in the future. They didn't really have the flyweight division yet. But he goes in there and, well, magic happens. You'll see.
And speaking of the flyweight division, by the way, Scott Fontana did a interview with the flyweight champion of the world, Mr. Alexandre Pantoja, and that went up on Tuesday morning, so make sure to go give that a watch. But shout out to Demetrius Johnson. I mean, when I think of him, I think of the flying armbar, and I mean, I wouldn't consider that a homework assignment because I feel like everyone has seen that fight, but this is like, you know, in the meat of his career,
you're gonna appreciate Miguel Torres too, guys. If you have never watched him, he is fun, and his whole catalog is fun. So
I'm excited.
Absolutely.
I love it. Okay, so what happened this week in MMA to close this show out?
as we go, I'm gonna give you guys June 19, 2004, UFC 48. 21 years ago, almost to the day, Tim Sylvia, who had been stripped of his title a year earlier, popped for steroids, fought Frank
The
Mir for the
juice.
vacant heavyweight title. 50 seconds in, Frank Mir breaks Sylvia's arm in an armbar that referee Herb Dean saw,
I
and
know this
the
one.
crowd really didn't. Well, you can watch it again
I
if you
know
want
this
to. I
one.
mean,
I
it's not
love
our
it.
homework, but yeah, everyone kind of in the crowd was like, "Why are you stopping it?" And Tim Sylvia sold it as I'm fine or whatever. But then yeah, we see it break in several places,
You
so we
hear
know
Herb.
it's broken.
You
It
hear
is,
Herb go, "Oh bleep," and then he goes,
yeah.
"The fight is over. The fight is
Oh
over."
yeah. See, yeah, absolutely. And the unfortunate fallout from this was Frank Mir never made a title defense. He was stripped of the belt a year later because 3 months after this fight, motorcycle accident, shatters his femur in a few places, tore up the ligaments in his knee. It just destroyed what was a promising career. He did eventually rebuild and eventually got destroyed again by Shane Carwin.
Ah, the Shane Carwin experience.
And Brock Lesnar. Oh my
It
goodness, he
all
got
comes
beat a
back.
lot, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. It all comes back.
Yes, it does. Alrighty, well, what a way to tie up this show. Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure, as always, to talk about the fight game with you all. Enjoy the fights this weekend. I will see you next week, and enjoy the fights for you at home. Adios.